I will open the January 24th, 2022 study session. The City of Sumner looks forward to welcoming members of the public to its meetings in person, but until further notice will continue its meetings 100% virtually using the Zoom platform. The public is invited to attend using the Zoom meeting access information on the city website. So we call to order today's meeting, and I will call the roll. Potato.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Hochstetter.
Here.
Councilmember Newman.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
And Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
We're all here. So let's go right into regular business. Number one, resolution number 1612, annual refuse and recycling rate adjustment. And it looks like we go to Steve Hopkins.
Mayor, we'll give it to Mr. Steffens to do a brief introduction.
I'll give it to Mr. Steffens to do a brief introduction. Our lights came on. Hey.
I can now see my notes. The city's contract with Murray's Disposal stipulates that rates will be adjusted annually based on two different factors. The first factor is a change in the landfill disposal costs. And in March, Pierce County will actually be decreasing those costs from $168.51 a ton to $166.45 a ton. The second factor allows Murray's an annual increase equal to 80% of inflation. In total, the average residential rate increase is 4.69%, and the average commercial rate increase is 4.29%. And a detailed list of the proposed 2022 rates has been included in your packet as attachment Exhibit A. And the public was provided a 45-day notice of the scheduled rate increase, which is set in effect March 1st, 2022, as required by law. And joining us this evening, we have Stephen Hopkins from Murray's. He's the Assistant District Manager. Josh decided to let Stephen take tonight's presentation, so he's here to help fill in I missed out and answer any questions for you all.
It looks like somebody's kind of come into the conversation in the chat, so maybe you want to check that.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you, Councilmember Potato. Mr. Hopkins.
Hello. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to, present and kind of talk over the 2022 rate adjustment. As Mr. Steffens already kind of went over, this is composed of two components of the rate case, one being the landfill tip fee. And for the first time in my career, I'm very pleased to say that we do see a decrease in the landfill tip fee of a 1.22% or $2.06 a ton. This is great news considering all the inflation costs that everybody's been incurring, including Murray's and everybody else really on this call. The 80% of CPI is the 5.23, but what does that really mean for our residential or our rate paying customers? When we look at our most common residential size cart, we see a total cost coming up to $32.47 a month. This is a year-over-year increase of $1.49 of additional cost per month. For the commercial customer, our most common commercial container size will see an increase of up to $229.80. This is a year-over-year increase of $10.09 of additional cost per month. And so those are really kind of the bare bones of the increase in the rate adjustment. I'd love to just pass it back and see if you guys have any questions on the rate adjustment or anything else Murray's related or waste related that you may have for me.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Hopkins? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hopkins, nice presentation, and I read through the contract and validated the CPI and everything looks really good. I just have a couple of questions, being the newest one on the council. I should remember this from before, but would you mind explaining a little bit about some of these services, just so we know? First of all, I'm assuming that paper or the recycling, non-yard waste recycling is included in these rates. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay. Let's see. And then let's see. Return trip charge. Is that if, could you explain what that is, please?
Absolutely. That is really only if we miss service, and sometimes that happens, where a driver's going down the road and for some reason misses your can. That does not include that charge. We will go back and get you free of charge. The return trip is basically when a customer has forgotten to get their can out and they give us a call up and ask, hey, we've just realized that we've forgot to put our can out. Can you please come back and get us picked up? We will make that trip, but that is the trip that comes with the additional charge.
Okay, thank you. That makes good sense. And then see the last item on the cart service, restart fee. Can you explain what that is?
Yes, restart fee is if you canceled service and or went into a collections and we had to actually collect the cans and take them away. To restart service, it's a charge for the restart service or restart fee. That is including redelivery of the equipment is what that charge covers.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm not sure if this is a math problem or what, but if you look at the 50-foot maximum walk-in, drive-in fee per cart, it looks like the current rate over doubled for the new rate.
We'll have to I'll take a look into that one for you. I would not want to give you false information, but Councilmember Stewart, I can actually respond directly to you through email if you'd like that tomorrow.
Okay.
And see exactly what that rate doubled for.
Okay, thank you. And I understand from looking at the contract what that charge is for, and it makes good sense. Okay, so let's see. I want to see if there was anything else I had questions about. So just generally, if, like I have a yard waste container and I see that's listed down here and it's really reasonable. But oftentimes during the winter, like say from late fall till early spring, I don't have any yard waste.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a nice surprise for you tomorrow or Wednesday, because I got a whole bunch more leaves in it.
Yeah.
But usually I don't mow my lawn, and typically I'm sure the average city customer probably wouldn't have his or her yard waste container out on the street. So do you give a credit for when there's no pickup like that?
Currently, we do not, because we actually have our trucks will run the full routes, regardless of if the customers have their equipment out or not. And it gives the opportunity for us to really make sure that if you have yours out, we ensure that we get your pickup. So the costing is really driven by the labor hours, truck hours, and such in that.
Okay, so it would behoove us to spread our yard waste out through the year so we're not paying for no pickup. Just kind of a joke for break the tension here.
Absolutely.
That's all my questions. Thank you very much.
One other thing, Councilmember Stewart, is that if you do actually have like a slow season during the winter, and you do choose, you can actually go ahead and call us up, let us know, hey, I'd like to suspend service on my yard debris for the next 3 months and then resume it down the road. And that's always an option for the customer.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate the help.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes, I have one question. I thought Councilmember Stewart might get to it. I think I may have figured it out by now, but I didn't understand the redelivery fee. What is the redelivery fee?
Redelivery fee is that it is the redelivery of equipment. So if we are to take the equipment away, there's the redelivery fee is the redelivery.
Like for commercial customers,
Yes.
not residential customers.
Well, residential, so both of them come with that redelivery fee but that's redelivery for the for those containers of once we've taken the time to pick them up for numerous different reasons, and then the redelivery of that equipment.
Okay, so I think it's like maybe one time a year you can have them picked up to be cleaned. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so is there a charge for picking those up and then returning them?
No.
Having them returned? Okay. Okay, that's the extent of my questions. Thanks.
Any more questions for Mr. Hopkins? Wow, you're getting off easy tonight.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your guys' time.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming in, explaining all of our garbage issues. All right. We will go back to Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next up, Resolution 1613, establishing the 2022-2027 Parks Improvement Plan.
That'll be Mr. Barry tonight.
Mr. Barry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me tonight. Derek Barry, your Community Services Manager. Let me go ahead and start up this presentation here. Let me know if you see it.
And we see it.
Oh, hey, look, it's skipping around. There we go.
Here we go.
So in your packet, you see the background. Basically, back in 2018, we had our Parks and Trail Plan update. We got guidance on what council and the Forestry and Parks Commission really wanted to see. We made some pretty good headway on chasing those dreams and direction. We want to continue that though. So here's the plan from 2018 with our system map. You can see the green circles. This was listed as one of the biggest priorities, was acquiring land in areas of town that we knew were underserved. As you know, we recently got the Bennett property. Shortly after that, we got property from the Quinnell family that was donated down in the River Grove area. We chased after the Rainier View Park Covered Court. We went through 2 grant cycles with RCO and we were successful with that. So what we were really looking at is here on the next page, the priorities was acquiring, like I said, those properties, improving those current facilities like what we're doing with Rainier View Covered Court, really responding to the community and what their needs were. The approach is always fun because we have limited funding and there's certain counts you can use. We have obviously the parks impact fees. We always like to double up and get grants. There's other opportunities as well in partnerships. So that's something we're always keeping an eye on with community members as well. So the goal here kind of is to really mimic what the Public Works Department does with their transportation improvement plan. Something that is established with council input. This is stuff that's gone through Forestry and Parks Commission. There's buy-in from the council. Obviously, we're not going to do the exact list. We're going to be approaching, hey, here's the priorities. Here are the opportunities that are popping up for us. So here are just some considerations I threw up for you guys to look at. Obviously, the Bennett property, we're currently going through the master plan. Coming up, we'd be looking at the grants and then hopefully construction, the sports complex. And this is alphabetical order on this list, so it's not really a prioritized one. The access doors, maybe some field turf out there, Heritage Park, we're looking at the Main Street Vision, Loyalty Park. We recently did the inclusive playground. Other improvements we heard from the community were covered area, ADA parking, trail. The Quinnell Park, which we just got, will need complete development and planning as well. Rainier View Park, like I mentioned, we have the covered court that we are currently working on with BCRA in the design. Ryan House, you guys will be hearing more about that, I believe, in 2 more weeks with Carmen. Siebenthaler Park, we're obviously working on that one right now as well. Skate park, the skate park's going to have some further conversations about what we can best do out there. 32nd Street, I'll scroll back up to, is up here off of West Valley Highway. Not really sure what we're going to do there. We've been brainstorming different ideas with it. 29th Street is a park that wasn't in our initial map. It was something I think we left out. So it's something we're going to be hopefully adding here in the comprehensive plan with CD. I did list the trails down here below, but this is covered by Public Works with their tip. But it is things that we're obviously paying attention to as well, as it's part of our whole park and trail network. Some other big considerations that we're looking at for our plan is Rainier View Park. We have that was built in 2007, so the playground's 15 years old. You get 15 years out of a playground, you're doing pretty well. You get 20, you're really, really lucky. So we're anticipating, and we've been funding a replacement program to be able to update Rainier View Park's playground equipment here soon. Some improvements that haven't made the cut yet, but are things we've heard through the 2018 and through these planning processes for Siebenthaler and the Bennett property are pump tracks, playground lights, reservation systems, and maybe even streetscape out at the skate park. And then, of course, we always have consideration of the route and intrusion and trip hazards along our trails. So once again, that's also under Public Works. Here is the plan that I'm hoping to have council give the nod to, and then present at a later date and get approval through resolution. But really, this is prioritized. These are things that we're currently working on, the Rainier View Covered Court, the master planning process for Siebenthaler and Bennett, and then immediately going after development and grant funding for it. Things we're currently also looking at is the Heritage Park master planning, depending on any property acquisition and going out for RFQ. That'd be a really big one for us. Ryan House improvements, and then eventually the development of the Heritage Park, because it'll take some time to plan that out and really get what we're wanting and funding to get in place. Quinnell's obviously very important. And then once again, we start going down to some things we've talked about. 29th Street, the identifying that neighborhood. For those of you who 29th Street might ring a bell, it's where our new operations center is, off of 142nd and 29th. There is a fair amount of residential homes up there or properties with no real park access. So it'd be a neat addition for them, I think. And then we go down even farther, you got Loyalty Park, Rainier View Park with the field drainage issues. So as you can see, we have quite a bit of things going on. This isn't completely exclusive. The land acquisition, we put it to be decided on location, because if something pops up, it'd be great to be able to purchase it if it fits our goals or expands on a current park. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Botetto.
Yeah, where is the Quinnell Park located?
So down here in River Grove,
Oh, okay.
where the pedestrian bridge is going in, it's the end of River Grove. There's a little side street there right next to the freeway. They gave us a sliver of leftover land from what I'm assuming was the development of the Valley townhomes that are down there. It was a tiny little sliver. We have right away right next to it. And it'll be about 1/4 of an acre park. It's really tiny, but it's better than nothing, which is what River Grove has right now. Absolutely nothing. So there's a little private playground area, but it's on private land. So this is better than nothing, but it's not the end of the answer.
Yeah, did the Bennetts have some property down there too?
No, the Bennetts have the 4 acres up off of East Valley Highway.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just thought there was something with the contract they were together, they had some property there. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Newman.
Thank you. First, Derek, I really want to thank you for including the Siebenthaler and River Grove here. Like Sumner is small, and we really then shouldn't have a reason why someone needs to walk more than a mile to enjoy some of our great parks. And these are 2 neighborhoods that have been typically left in the dust, I think, of our parks program. And so I'm really excited to see those 2 on here. And thank you for continuing to give some thought about access to Siebenthaler for those who do drive to parks. That's still kind of it's sort of tricky for like the homeowners to access that unless we can get some of the improvements or buy some access to it. So I hope that we continue to explore that. And also thank you for some of the maintenance improvements. I wish that maintenance for existing structure got the same kind of ribbon cutting celebrations that new open. It's just not as sexy as starting like a new park. But thank you for making sure that the parks that we do have can be used. For council and staff, I still cannot wrap my head around $750,000 for the Ryan House. You want to talk about accessibility? If we are prioritizing Heritage Park improvements, as part of the Main Street vision, first of all, I am fully supportive of that. But I struggle when I see potential funding sources for Ryan House. If it was all LTAC, fine. But that ARPA, that some COVID relief funding could go to Ryan House, I have a lot of heartburn about the funding sources and the price tag for Ryan House, when I think our first priority should just be getting it open and available to the public before we do a lot of like fancy outdoor work. And I'd rather work on our successful parks and creating the new ones. Anyway, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Derek, really good job. And I really like the idea of having this be on a park improvement plan like the transportation plan is. This is really good. I just had a couple of questions. What is a pump track?
So it's kind of wavy ground, usually asphalt, concrete. It kind of looks like a skate park, but it's for bicycles where you're not really pedaling a whole lot. You can use your momentum going up and down and banking around the corners.
Okay, back in the day when I rode motorcycles, I called those hoop-de-doos.
So that's a hoop-de-doo park.
And then just a general question, how do you establish the priority?
So that's a good question. In 2018 or in 2019, when we went through this with Forestry and Parks Commission, we brought it back to the council. It was more of our ideas of an approach. We had just adopted the plan, so nothing was really formalized, and this is really the first more of a formal adoption of what we're looking at. The way that I came up with, let me go to the actual plans here on the screen, is things we are already pot committed to and things we've been working on currently that council's been aware of. Obviously, anytime these things move around, it'll be going through CD committee, going to council. Anytime these projects are truly moving forward, is we'll be coming back to you more and more. That's why we want to have this done yearly. But as of right now, it's really just based off of things that are moving forward. So Rainier View Covered Court, we have the RCO grant. You guys have accepted the grant authorization, the funding. We also got LCP. So that was another funding source for that. So that one we listed one. It's something that we're actively moving on. The planning process for Siebenthaler and the Bennett property, we've been, knee deep, chest deep in that, moving forward. So it's got good momentum and we want to keep that moving forward, followed up by the development of those. And then looking at the master planning, Ryan House, the Heritage Park, and the Quinella, it's more of the things that are fulfilling the priorities that we were given in 2019, kind of the concepts, providing where we don't have anything provided, and then fixing what we have when we can.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that explanation. I just have one other question on funding. Is it your intention to fund most of these with grants? I know that you have other sources of funds, but if, say down the line a ways, if funding $10 million for a Heritage Park, if that funding is not available, does that project just sort of languish, or what's the plan?
So the ones that are italicized, and I screwed up, there's a typo at the bottom. Italicized is really to be determined. We had in 2018, we were given a spreadsheet of the major improvements that the parks were wanting and a rough ballpark of 2018 construction costs. I've inflated them a little bit here to throw them in here just so we kind of have an idea of what the costs are looking like. So we'll be talking about specifically Bennett and Siebenthaler later. Those have big price tags on them. Those are going to be a phased approach because you're creating a whole new park. That's never cheap. And so the infrastructure that goes with it is going to be very expensive, obviously.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll be using a lot of grant funding, obviously our parks impact fee. There's sometimes access to REIT. I believe it's House Bill 1025. They're looking at allowing, it's a whole nother conversation, but they're looking at allowing cities, counties, park districts to have a 0.1% tax voted on by the people. So each city can do their own if they wanted to. I understand this is not that conversation, but those are things that are available in the toolbox to fund.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation.
Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. And Derek, mine's a short question on the Bennett property. Are there any conceptual designs or layouts that are available yet? I have a constituent that is very, very interested as soon as one becomes available.
They are available. We'll be discussing that here shortly.
Okay.
It is online on the Sumner Connects page. It has been for the last, it was up there last week.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cole.
You may have possibly sort of answered this question, but I wasn't sure because I don't know how this works. But so the parks improvement plan shows a ton of activities in 2022, but very few in 2023. But on the earlier slide, I saw that there was really quite a bit on your plate for 2022. So maybe that's the same thing that happens. Those things that sort of move over into 2023 are probably most of them. So I was curious as to why there was so little activity on the Parks Improvement Plan for 2023. I saw 2 projects at Rainier View Park and then 1 at Heritage Park. So is it really just others coming along?
Yeah, so quite a bit of that will be, we have RCO grant applications due May 3rd. That's one of our biggest funding sources. You hurry up to get the grant in, and then it's kind of the wait game. So you wait a good 6 months to a year. If we do get funding, then we will get those designs that we have from the planning process and get construction ready bids to go out. So there is a slack time between when you're moving forward, you put your applications in, and then you're hoping to get the construction funding to make it a go. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Hochstetter. You're muted.
I bet you wish that happened all the time, but no. Mr. Barry, can you explain to me what the access gates are and where they are at Bill Heath Sports Complex that you're trying to improve?
Yeah, it's the concession stand. It's currently used for people to literally pee in the corners and shoot up drugs. It's been an ongoing maintenance nightmare. We've got metal doors that are deteriorating. Staff are finding needles shoved under the doors when they're trying to get to the equipment to take care of the park. So the goal is to basically get rid of that alcove, bring everything up front, so there's no little hiding spot, basically. It'd be all flush to the front.
Okay, great. I remember that problem, and I remember us discussing that. I just hadn't seen it called access gates, but that's the location. You're pinning the location of where it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for
you're
putting that on the list. Yeah.
And Councilmember Reed, did you have another question? No. Councilmember Newman.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Barry, could you let us know, if you know offhand, what's our success rate for getting multiple RCO grants in 1 year? I don't know that process very well. And so do they typically give more than 1 park grant to a jurisdiction, or do they spread it out?
That's a good question. So I've only gone through 2 RCO grant processes. The first year we tried WWRP. We were not successful with Rainier View Covered Court. They advised us to go through the YAF, Youth Athletic Facilities. We were successful in that round. It's a little less competitive. So there are so many different RCO categories that you can apply under different categories. More than likely, we'll be competing against ourselves with Bennett and Siementhaler. The difference with Bennett and I can discuss it more when we are going on over the planning process. Bennett, we're going to try to acquire one more piece of property. So it'll be an acquisition and development, which kind of puts you in a different category. You're in the same grouping, but because you're having the acquisition, it's looked at a little differently. And I can explain that more if you guys want to see the actual pictures, and I can walk you through that later.
That helps. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, any other questions there? I think you can move on, Derek.
Mayor and Derek, actually, if I could just make a comment to address Councilmember Newman's previous statement. Next week, we'll be going through the Ryan House plans, reviewing all of the interior and exterior studies that we've been doing and the plans. That'll help guide the conversation further with at least the local LTAC dollars that council will be considering on February 7th. And then lastly, just to wrap this piece up, this is something new. We've never adopted a parks improvement plan before. I don't know if other cities have. This is just an idea that we came up with as staff to help prioritize what staff is going to be spending our time and some financial resources on over the next year and moving forward. As you know, with a TIP, it's going to be very similar, whereas things do move as funding becomes available, what we're successful at through grants, other just opportunities of the moment, right, that come across. So it is a living document, but it is something that we are going to ask council to approve through a resolution in a couple of weeks. And just wanted to preview with you tonight and make sure that you're okay with that concept of identifying these priorities to help staff focus our resources.
Thank you for that explanation. Councilmember Newman, are you all right?
He answered my question. I wanted to make sure we weren't doing this the same night as Ryan House presentation so that we had time to if any reconciliation was needed. Anyway, he answered. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, are we ready to move on? Mr. Barry, there you go.
All right. It looks like it's up. Hopefully it's working here. So here's the same map. In the corner here, I have the Bennett property area here that obviously we identified, and then Siebenthaler Park. As you can see, they're pretty close to each other. And I'll just share this out. It's kind of out of sequence of my speech or presentation, but there is a sidewalk connection except for the last 300 feet. So it's a pretty neat setup. They're kind of brother and sister park, you call them. They're close enough where we're able to look at what people are wanting and divide and conquer. So I guess we should start what is a master plan? Really, it's what I like here is you reflect the vision, character, and values of what you're wanting. The city of Sumner, we've had quite a bit of public input. As you can see here in the bottom left, this is actually Sumner. But what we do is we reach out to the public, we get their input, what they're wanting, and that kind of helps us create the middle picture, which is conceptual. You start programming it in the park itself. We get that narrowed down to a final plan or a preferred plan. And then from there, you get a master plan that really shows the finer details of what you've said. Hey, public, here's what we're looking at. Here's the concepts. Here's what it could look like. Does that look good? All right, awesome. And then here's the master plan itself. To share more of what we've done to this point with the public process, we had 951 people who have visited the page. And this was as of a few days ago. 399 have gone through and looked at more than just one page. They've actually taken a look at different things. We had 302 that have taken the survey so far. The kickoff survey started late June and ended at the end of September. We had 253 responses. That's a pretty good amount. Really what we were looking at was, which amenities do you like? Is it something you love? Is it something you hate? Or are you kind of neutral? We had a Nights on Ryan in the middle of that first kickoff, and it was an actual in-person event the first one I've been to in 2 years. Pretty good turnout there. It was great interacting with the public and sharing what was going on. There's pretty good excitement about it. Following that, we had our open house. So along with the consultants, we had a Zoom meeting. We had a few people participate. We reached out to everyone who had taken the survey. We talked about the different concepts and what they could be. We had 58 responses from that. We also met, or I met with the Creekside HOA. They're one of the neighbors to the north and a little bit northeast of the Bennett property. They had a lot of questions and they wanted some face-to-face time. So I went to one of their meetings and it actually went really, really well. So right now we're looking at the preferred concepts. As Patrick asked earlier, Councilmember Reed asked earlier, are there concepts out there? There are right now. We have a survey going right now as well, hearing what people's favorite amenities, what their most favorite amenity is and what they're most looking forward to. So, oops, wrong slide here. So if we look at Siebenthaler here, this park has been here for quite a while. It sees pretty decent use. The addition of the temporary dog park, which is currently right here, has been really popular. I've yet to receive a complaint about anyone with the dog park, maybe other than us closing it because it's so muddy right now. So the current conditions is really a big basketball court. It's used pretty well. We do have a small playground that for the most part fits the needs, but could be quite a bit bigger. As you can see, there's a huge lawn area, but it's seasonally wet. Summertime, it can be pretty useful, but all other times it's not really that great. We do have a lot of the taller, big mature trees towards the north, and this park really has a lot of potential. The two parcels up here it would be the west, but it's the top of the page. We acquired those in 2019 after the plan, knowing that it was a little bit wet. In the end, I'll show you what it will look like and what the concepts are here on the next slide. So some of the major things you see on this are obviously the large playground area, a little bit bigger. They want to provide shade or weather protection of some sort. That's been really popular in all of our surveys, even back in 2016 to get our 2018 plan done. This does include a spray park. Let's see, there's the mouse. Spray park here in the middle. The dog park gets moved all the way to the north end over here on the far right. A couple of the older trees are in here, and we're hopeful that they'll survive a dog park being around them. It would be nice to keep shade over there as well for people and their pet friends. This does include a restroom over here to the left. The multi-purpose court is shrunk down a little bit. It maybe half court, maybe 2/3 of a court. And we're not just gonna have it be basketball. We can put other lines for other courts on it as well, other uses. As you can see, we've incorporated a walking path. Before it was just sidewalk and sidewalk. So the northern loop here goes through some of the older mature trees. We're looking at having this actually join up here to the right of way. So this could become a sidewalk for people from here. Whoops, sorry. People coming down Wood could come and join here. It goes through the north side. Here's a nice picnic shelter, but it also has a walkway through the wetland. Kind of a little engagement area here so people can learn about the wetlands, educational opportunities there. We did add ADA parking. Right now, this is just a bench and a couple of small trees. We're looking at having back-end angled parking. The open lawn is still pretty good size, really, and we're looking at maybe adding some trees. We've had some internal discussions on ways we could improve on this as well. Plantings and trees and shading have been really important through the beginning of this process. If you're familiar with Siebenthaler, you feel like you're in these two people's backyard, and they probably vice versa for them. It probably feels kind of awkward having people right there, right behind their home. And shading, as I said, down here would be nice for the play areas as well. This is really the main shading area. So do you have any discussion points or questions on Siebenthaler that any of you have before I go on to Bennett?
Any questions for him?
Derek, before you move on, would you mind just going over process, what the purpose of tonight is, and what the specific council ask is and next steps?
Yeah, definitely. So tonight, really, it's more about engaging with you. We have the survey out with the public again, asking to say, hey, what's your favorite thing? We did leave options for people to leave comments on the survey if they really don't like something, or if they want us to think about something else. Next steps would be, if these look good, and we get those survey responses back, we'll have what we call a preferred plan or a final plan. Once we have that, the ask is council does this look good? If so, we'll start doing that actual master plan. And that master plan is where they start getting way more detailed. We'll be looking obviously at phasing because we can't afford to do all this. There's no way unless someone gets a massive donation. So we'd be looking at what infrastructure needs to be done. More than likely, back and angled parking would be way later in the process. Could we do the walkways and the playground spray park? Or could we do the playground, dog park, and open lawn and leave the spray park for later? So it's kind of you come up with what makes sense financially and will fit the needs of the community.
Councilmember Newman has a question.
Will we be able to see the comments and responses from community input in response to the surveys?
Yeah, if you'd like it.
Yes, please.
It's been summarized. If you want it summarized or do you want the full detail?
I would actually like I don't mind a large file, whatever. I would actually like to read through all of them.
Okay. I can provide that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Derek. You've hit a home run with this. I just love it. I live about maybe 3 blocks from that park, and my grandchildren have loved going over just to play on the playground. This is really, really good. I love it. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes, Derek, are people asking for a spray park?
Yeah, it was I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you. They're not cheap. There's maintenance to go with them, but it has been something that has been consistently asked for years. The 2018 master plan that we did for all of parks and trails, that was one of the most common requests or suggestions. But funding wise and logic for it, it's a tricky thing. It continues to be top of the chart for everything they want. In fact, had notes earlier. Yep. So as of right now, looking at the results for the survey that's out, spray park is definitely in the lead for favorite amenities or things people want to see most for Siebenthaler.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there an age limit?
No.
I hope not.
Kurt, you are definitely invited.
Good one. Okay, Councilmember Hochstetter, I think, has another question.
Mr. Berry, is there lighting included in your plan there for Siebenthaler?
Not necessarily, not yet. It's something that we've talked about for the playground and for the sports court in particular. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a lit up playground. It's not real common, but this afternoon, it's not raining right now, I don't think. It'd be nice for kids to be able to go out and play on a playground. So those are things kind of like what we've looked at for Rainier View Park with the covered court. It's one of those usable hours. And then if lighting does show up, it's obviously something we would work with the neighbors and the community on for appropriate timing for it.
Okay, because I'm wondering, does lighting make a park more safe, or is it collect people to want to sleep there at night? I mean, do you know whether it helps? Because Siebenthaler has a reputation of not being I'm talking way back in time, but not being a very safe or inviting park. So
I can share my opinion on it.
okay,
I don't know if we have any stats on it, but driving around to any of Sumner's parks at night, then when they're really dark, it's not really inviting. I would guess that CPTED, the Crime Prevention for Environmental Design, would call for the more that's illuminated, the better the layout is, and the more it's activated, the lower the crime.
okay.
But yeah. That's
Okay,
just my
well,
opinion on it.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Councilmember Brown, did you have another question?
I'm sorry, I'll put my hand down.
Okay. All right. So Councilmember Potato.
Yeah, I have a question about the trees. When there was plans for Rainier View Park, there was such an uproar about this possible hill that was barely a bump in the landscape. and trees, they were concerned about safety. And I like the idea of the trees, and the walking path through there. Have you heard any concern like that?
No, I can tell you my only concern right now would be the maintenance of the trails and the walkways themselves, becoming tripping hazards if it's hard concrete surface.
Yeah.
We have an arborist on staff and they pay a lot of attention to all of our trees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, nice design.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it looks really good too.
I kind of want to throw out a joke to all of you guys about this though. Can you guys see Snoopy?
He's laying
Yeah, I
down.
see him.
I
Yeah.
think he's laying down.
All right. I'll move on to the Bennett property for now. So the Bennett property up off East Valley Highway. I think that this is going to be a great addition to that neighborhood. It's just under 4 acres. As you can see, it's just a big open field. There are some wetlands. And as you can see from this, it's pretty hard to access. So with all of our outreach and work with the community, here's the concept we've come up with. And I should rewind a little bit. The Siebenthaler Park right here, this concept, we sent out on our second survey, showed different concepts, which concept's your favorite and why. And that's how we came to this look. Bennett property, when we had the different concepts, there are actually 3. So it showed different layouts, different approaches, different ways to look at it. And this is basically summarizing those results of what was the most liked. So from going from an empty field with some wetland with one way of access, we worked with the property owner here. He's kind of the grandpa of the neighborhood. The kids come to him and he helps them with their bikes. Anyways, he had a really big side yard. We were able to get 7 feet of his property to create a pedestrian path off of 154th. So if you're familiar with the area, there's quite a few homes on the east side and to the south that now no longer have to drive out to East Valley Highway or walk out to East Valley Highway, and we'll be able to access it from this walkway. Where did my mouse go? There we go. So right through here. Next up, for things that I think are pretty important, is the access here. This was maybe the most debated thing with the neighborhoods and with the different concepts. People were worried that vehicles will drive through the whole neighborhood. And we worked with Public Works. We worked with the HOA from Creekside, kind of discussing the concept of this. If you have the 2 points, people can come and go here, they can come and go here. If you were to leave here and head south, you might get frustrated and just head north and then go through the neighborhood. This gives another opportunity to get a little bit farther away from the light down here. So this is, when it was discussed at Creekside, it was kind of an aha moment for quite a few people. That was their number one concern. So this also helps with ingress and egress with the fire department, not having to have a huge hammerhead or a massive turnaround in the park itself. As you can see, there's a very large lawn, open lawn area. Where's the mouse again? Here we go. We have the nice play area. This is a full-size court that would once again have different court lines on it. Pickleball, of course, for me. Maybe volleyball. We have 2 picnic shelters, a very large one here and a smaller one offset here. We have an opportunity to have some creative public art. And then you have quite a few benches and seating areas. It also has a walking trail, but it's not as big and meandering. But we do also have fitness stations. So one here. And actually, this was a very popular response even on the current survey. So we might need to look at maybe adding another spot for a fitness station. I guess, do you have any questions on this concept?
Councilmember Botetto, did you have your hand up?
I do, not intentionally, but I'll ask, for the stormwater ponds, will they have fencing around them for safety?
So that's a good question. And that's something we've had internal talks about. It kind of depends on the banking, I guess, on the side of it. During the wetter season, we'd probably have water in there. When this park is most active, it probably won't really be having water in it. And Mike Dahlem, I think you're on the call. I think that's the conversation we had. Hop on if I misremembered.
Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. So kind of a follow-up to my question earlier. So you've been working with Creekside HOA on addressing their concerns as well?
Yeah, they've been very involved.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That was one of the big ones because the constituent that I'm former Senator Roach, her house is right there, I think not far from the walkway across the street there. And she's been pretty vocal. I've had a few phone calls and she definitely wanted to make sure that we were including the HOA and residents in the design concepts.
Yeah, in fact, she was invited to that HOA meeting and we were surprised she didn't show up. She said she was going to be there. She can reach out as well. But yeah, they've been involved. I don't know if she's in Creekside's HOA or if she's in, what's it called? Ridgeview Estates might be the name of it. There's a second HOA that's out there that's to the east and south of it a little bit more.
Okay.
She's to the east here, a few houses. So I've reached out to that HOA as well. And then there's also the mobile home complex to the south. I reached out to them as well. There's quite a few in a dense area and they're within walking distance. So I even printed out surveys for them, paper ones.
Great. No, that sounds great. I think that satisfies the outreach concerns that she had. And I'll follow up with a link if she hasn't already looked at the connects. But I know she's definitely very interested in the entire process.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. Derek, I thought I saw in your proposed options some sort of buffer on the north side between the edge, just the northernmost right in there, yeah, where the mouse is, and those houses that are just on the other side of that. What is that going to look like?
This buffer in here.
Yeah.
So the homes up here on the north, and I think the ones that are a little more west, have a peekaboo view of Mount Rainier. So it's something we'd be paying attention to with the height of the trees. But I think you're wondering more about the buffer itself, like how far off the fence with no activity. Is that what you're wondering about?
Well, and for privacy, if they have a backyard barbecue, is there going to be a good separation from activity in the park to the homeowners? Property? Yeah,
and that's what this concept kind of did. It pulled things into the middle more. You can see the whole east side has a lot of buffering. The north side here would have, I mean, you're talking one of these whole homes, almost an entire parcel width of stormwater area. And all of them, except for one, has a wood fence along the back. These would be planted. People wouldn't really be activated in this area for sure. More than likely they'd be out in here. We added trees along here. It is, let me rewind a little bit too from an earlier question with the access and the RCO grant. This parcel here, we've been in conversations with the property owner. He is a willing participant to sell. Obviously, if this is the way we're going to go, we need to have this be negotiated with him and as well as part of our grant application.
Okay. So the homes that I'm thinking about is right where you have the word water.
Right here?
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's at least 30 to 50 feet off their house where people would actually be.
Okay. So it's not anything, is there a visual line of sight issue involved there at all? Or is there, because I can't see that there would be any trees.
No, and that's where my mention of Mount Rainier, let's see, is down in this direction, down to the southeast. So these homes here kind of have that view. These kind of do as well. It's not a real big view, but I know that some view is better than nothing.
Sure.
These would be smaller trees, smaller plants.
Okay. Do you know if any of those homeowners were participated in these surveys and one-on-one with you or your people?
One of them One of them mentioned that they lived on the north side, that their house bordered it. I don't remember exactly which home it was. I don't think they shared that. They just wanted to make sure that, that we listened to them.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, Member Newman.
Thank you. Mr. Barry, it looks like the waterway or the wetland on the east side. So is that a bridge that goes over it?
Yeah, it is.
So is that what we think would be like then the pedestrian access to the neighborhood, like for whom this is largely intended, but wouldn't have access otherwise?
Correct. And so let me scroll back to the current condition. The wetland right now is right here, but it kind of messes up the rest of the park's layout. It's a low quality wetland. It's not like it has a whole lot of actual water sitting everywhere. It's more like a field that has grass that was hardly ever mowed. So it's just got a lot of wet areas. So this area here, sorry, I don't know how much sitting water is really going to be out there. The fact that it's a low quality wetland that's a lot smaller. This is quite a bit bigger than what's over here because we're moving it. If that helps with visualizing it.
Did that answer your questions, Councilmember Newman?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was still on mute. I had two follow-up. That walkway, do we have to purchase the right of way for that? Has any of that been settled or negotiated? Like, do we know we can acquire that?
This one right here, the pedestrian?
Yes.
We have it. We purchased it from him.
Oh, great. Okay, that's excellent news. Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
And then with the wetlands, do we suspect any state or core issues with relocating or reconfiguring that?
I'm not aware of any real concerns with it. The conversations we've had in-house with Ryan Windish, CD Director, and Mike Dahlman, Public Works Director, I think this is kind of just a standard process with it. It's not a high quality wetland. Ryan and Mike, hop on if you have any other concerns with it, but it's pretty status quo.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hochstetter.
I could add on the wetlands. I believe, if Ryan's on, he could correct me, but the wetlands are regulated by the city, and so we won't have to go to the Corps.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Now, Councilmember Hochstetter.
Okay, Mr. Barry, you have a lot of plaza there. What kind of material do you envision using for all that plaza area?
I'm not really sure. It could be concrete. It could maybe be impervious pavement, but then you're looking at much higher costs if you do stuff like that. More than likely, it would be some sort of concrete.
Could it be soft gravel or something like that too, or you envision it being more of a hard surface?
Yeah, where you're having your walkways, I envision it being a hard surface. Gravel maybe more in like landscape and beautification areas. But if it's something that you really want to see, we could look at it. My concerns would be ADA and people slipping and tripping on the gravel.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. I was just curious because there was so much of it there.
Mr. Windish.
Thank you, Mayor Hayden. The wetland is not a core wetland, and given the low kind of function of that wetland, the mitigation for relocating it is less than, in terms of kind of the ratio of what area do you need to create. If you move it is less than what it would be if it was a more high value wetland. So the end result will probably actually be a better wetland in terms of kind of functionality and I don't know how much of a water feature it will be, but months like we've had the last couple of weeks, it'll probably be a water feature of some sort.
Thanks.
Maybe the kids can go catch frogs.
There you go. All right, do I see any more questions? I think that's it.
So we'll be wrapping up the survey with the public here in the next couple of weeks. And then coming back to council, probably the 28th of February, to say, hey, does this look good with the final design? Juliet from HVB, which is our consultant on the project, will be here to answer some questions and kind of walk through the final process a little bit more with you. But as of right now, everything seems to be looking good. Good feedback from the public so far. And really looking forward to getting these going. It's been a fun process, and it'll be great for both these parks to see some attention.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Great work, as always.
Thank you.
All right. So that concludes the Parks Master Plan discussion. City Administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing, I just want to remind council that although it is a 5th Monday next week, we do have a special study session to discuss the Ryan House. Normal time, 6 o'clock.
Okay. Great. Is that your report also? Good, I like that. All right, any council meeting agenda? Any issues on the calendar? No issues? Council committee meeting, no issues? And no executive session? So guess what? We are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Nice work.
Night.